My name is Anya, and I'm a woman of today positioning myself for tomorrow.
Where are you from?
I'm from Sri Lanka. That's home for me, but I am originally Indian, but I grew up in Sri Lanka.
So Sri Lanka is in India.
It's a country off the coast of India. So it's its own island. It's in between India and the Maldives.
My friend, like my childhood friend, always used to talk about women from Sri Lanka, like they were so beautiful and exotic. So I finally meeting someone from Sri Lanka.
I was a Sri Lankan person.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, honestly. So welcome to Women
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
So Anya has been my good friend for like the past 2 years. So I'm super excited to have her on this platform. I think what you do just in your day-to-day life, from school, even coming here, from your hometown, and just all you've accomplished thus far, I think it's like so incredible. So tell the people, like, what do you do?
So I'm currently in grad school. I went back after working in the fashion industry for about a year. I wanted to do my master's. And somewhere during the pandemic, 2020, the whole entrepreneurship bug kind of caught me. So I wanted to go back and get a master's in the more financy business side of things, because I had a background in marketing and fashion. But it became evident that over time, to do my own business, I really need to know kind of the back end side of it a little bit more and have a professional training in that. So I went back to do that, and I'm going to be finishing in about a month or so. And I'm going to be looking for work in the marketing field, because that's what I'm most interested in, for some experience. But I'm also working on my own startup that I'm really excited about.
Yes.
And we're building up to launch for next year. So that's what I'm working on right now.
What is your startup?
Well, I'm not going to go too much into it because we haven't launched yet. But I found a need in 2020 when I was running out of products that I've grown up with and use all the time, because I'd bring them with me from Sri Lanka, India, from my travels. And I thought this was just a me problem. That, like, oh, my shampoo is running out and I can't buy it here, or my, skincare is running out, I can't buy that here, or the food that I want that I used to bring back, I can't get it here. And it was actually something that a lot of my friends were going through as well. And we noticed this gap in the market for Eastern wellness and Ayurveda-inspired products. So we're basically trying to bridge that gap, but also bring Eastern medicine and holistic wellness to new audiences across the world.
And what was that, like, I know just being your friend, like, you're so passionate about that, like, your upbringing, was that always influenced just, like, in your daily, like, living?
Yeah, like, honestly, I think if you ask most South Asians, some element of Ayurveda has been, like, a part of your daily life, whether that's, like a pimple remedy. Like you'd go, like, I remember, like, when I got like acne a lot when I was a teenager, like I'd go talk to my mom or my grandma about it, and the first thing they'd do is like make me a homemade mask. Or like I was swimming a lot and then my hair was falling out, so like as like a chlorine protectant, we'd make a homemade hair mask. Or if you're not feeling too well, your tummy hurts, you have like ginger tea. So all of those things were kind of a part of your daily life. But sometimes finding ingredients for those things, if you want to make it yourself, is really hard to do. So products become easier, but there's a lack of access of those products if you live abroad.
No, I'm totally into it, because for me, I'm super I'm against like the Western medicine and all of just like the pharmaceuticals, and they tend to like have more side effects than
It can be
benefits.
really scary.
So I love that. You're doing that. So when are you planning to launch?
We're hoping to launch on my birthday, 31st March next year.
What's your sign?
I'm an Aries.
Nice, fire. Let's just get into, I know you've been here in school at SCAD. So what's that experience like?
Oh, it's been great. I moved here in 2016 to pursue fashion marketing at SCAD. So that was my undergrad degree. Worked for a year and then went back to SCAD. I was just so comfortable. The university is great. The kind of mentors that I have there are really great. And the access to industry professionals, I think their network, if you're creative, is really interesting. So there's always a space that you can find. And I think one of the things I love about SCAD is that if you have any kind of passion project or even like slight interest, which sometimes can sound very niche to non-creatives, there's probably a degree for it or a program for it or like a summer intensive that you can take. Like I know of people who are interested in fashion design as like a generic thing, and then they do that program, but then they're doing sneaker design on the side at SCAD as well, or immersive reality just because they're interested in that.
That's fire.
You said during the pandemic that you just had like, I guess, an epiphany that you were leaning towards entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So what was it, like an emotional thing that happened, or just like what happened during that time where you were like, this is where I want to go?
So I think for me first, it was just that I realized that there was a gap in the market. A lot of my family is made up of entrepreneurs, so I never thought of it as something that's completely inaccessible or, like hard or very risky. I was always like kind of encouraged to do those kind of riskier things, so it didn't seem crazy to me. And at the time, I was also working at SICE, which is a startup. It was a small company at that time. So my boss was, an entrepreneur himself, and I had a really close relationship with him. So all of that kind of just fed into just, I could actually just do this by myself.
Yeah, so you were empowered in those situations.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like just having those mentors and being around people that are like-minded was really like a big part of like not giving up? Because so many people feel like it's not in them to do it. They might have an idea, but they don't go for it.
Yeah, I think the people you surround yourself with is like so important. Yeah. I mean, my boyfriend over there, he's an entrepreneur as well. So like I see him hustling every day, working from home. So like my mentors, my dad is an entrepreneur. So many people in my family, my mentors from SCAD, all of that. I feel like the advice you can get from people who are in similar fields as you. But I also think like when you're an entrepreneur, your like worldview is kind of bigger than being in a certain industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really important, especially when you're younger, I think, to just feel that sense of security or that advice you can get from people that you're already comfortable with, but it'll always apply to you.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever industry you're in.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like the I can do it mentality.
Yeah.
Like the sky's the limit.
Exactly.
And I want to tap into when you worked at SICE. Is SICE correct? So for people who don't know, SICE is back then it was a startup when you were working?
Yeah.
Like a startup company, fashion brand. And during the pandemic, do you remember, it's those bags that say protect Black people, and the brand went viral?
Yeah.
So Anya came on board when the company was starting up, and in regards of your position was what?
Marketing manager.
Yeah. And really did like some big stuff while the brand was like scaling at a rapid pace. So like take us back to that time. Like what was it like working with the brand? And I know you were running the socials and probably waking up every day, and this company it's just like thousands of followers, articles, blog posts.
Yeah, so I was SICE's first hire. I was the first person on the team, and for I want to say like 4 or 5 months, it was just me and my boss. So I was reporting directly to him, and the whole startup culture itself was new to me because I was used to working at much bigger companies where, the whole chain of command, the structure is completely different. You don't just randomly call up your boss or the CEO and you're like 4 a.m. like, oh, I had this great idea.
Yeah.
And you don't have that access to the person usually. Yeah. So just that culture itself took me a little bit of time to adjust to. But it was a great experience. It definitely gave me a lot of room to grow and explore the different things I'm interested in. So I initially came on as a social media manager. So I was just handling social, like customer service on social media, the posting, content, stuff like that. And almost like every week I'd be like calling Blake and I'd be like, I want to do this campaign thing, or I want to open an account on this, or I want to do this as well. And he really gave me that room and freedom to just take that risk and see how it went.
That's so important.
And I learned so much just by doing that. I was watching so many like LinkedIn learning videos and like TED Talks and stuff, and kind of just learning things as they go. Like I had never used Hootsuite or Sprout Social or any of those like omni-channel platforms to post things before, and I just learned how to use those tools, which was great. He connected me with some great industry people that was really amazing to meet. There was Asia on our team who used to work at Fenty Beauty earlier, and just being able to talk to her and like literally call her up and talk about influencers for 2 hours. I felt like that was just amazing. But yeah, we saw growth pretty quickly. I think at that time, especially, I think the timing was really important for that brand.
What do you think was the reason why you saw so much growth so early
I think
on?
the timing was one of probably the most important things. It was
hardcore, like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
it was the right
everything.
time for it. I think people also were still indoors a lot, so in terms of social media, you could connect with an audience much faster than you would when you're back at work and things are normal. It also, I think, changed the way that people view social media a little bit, like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I think we have a healthier attitude towards social media, so even like marketing became a lot more transparent. So like you'd see that our customers were actually okay with the authenticity and they preferred it. Like if we had a delay in shipping because of the pandemic or whatever, it was, as long as we're telling them about it, that was appreciated versus an auto-generated email saying, shipment still pending or something. So
it was like a real life, it felt like a real life experience.
yeah, and I think that messaging of just being able to connect with your audience was really important. Because almost every customer, I want to say, had like one-on-one treatment. Like I was responding to their DMs, like, you'd remember if it was somebody's birthday because you'd see the post from last year, and then if you wish them again the following year, like just like the small things I think in customer service and just like building that loyalty came from just engaging with them and just being really transparent about everything. Like there's a real person behind here, it's not a bot.
Did you have a hard time like detaching yourself from that like emotional connection with the brand when it was time for you to go?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was hard. Like, I didn't really want to leave. Like, it had been such a great experience. But I knew I wanted to go back to school. I also didn't want to wait too long. Education's always been really important to me. I always wanted to get my master's, so I didn't want to wait too long where that I get so into like the grunt work and just like the daily life, and I'm like, I don't want to go back to school right now. So for me, it was a lot. Like timing wise, it worked out. I felt like I'd done a lot of what I could do in the beginning, and I knew that the team was great. Like the people that I left it with, I knew they could do a really good job with it as well.
When you left, how many team members were there when you left?
When I left, probably around 5, 6.
Okay.
It's always been a very small team.
Yeah. TmrO is startup, and we're still in a lot of discovery. So I find myself as like the CEO, I'm being like really transparent. I'm handling a lot of the customer service because I work with the dev team, so I'm the one who really like just knows what's happening, who to talk to get something fixed. And it's surprising to me how much people are so understanding about the things that are happening as a startup. They're like, oh, this is so cool. Like rather than being like, oh, this sucks, I'm not getting this happening, where they're like, okay, I'm just like happy that someone's talking to me and telling me, and they're like so happy I'm one of the first people here, and it's like been eye-opening, and just to know that people really do appreciate like the authenticity of it.
Yeah, I think the customer base is changing. I think especially post-pandemic, but just in general because of our generation, Gen Z, Gen Y. They definitely value authenticity over everything else, and that's been proven time and time again in every marketing report. More than any other generation, we value and trust our brands a lot more, and that's big for us. If there's even one little breach of trust, the brand is dropped. So.
But that's exciting because it's like we had Kristen's link on before, and she's was a mentor of mine. She has a company called Tech AF, and she helps non-technical founders build tech products. So like me coming in,
that's so important. Yeah.
I was so intimidated by like thinking I had to be like a coder or like like the Facebook founder or whatever. And, it's just like it makes me feel good to know that I can really like show up like this and say, this is my product, and I'm learning and I'm doing my best to bring value, and that's appreciated.
Yeah, and I think that especially the learning part is so important, right? Like if you're not willing to learn more, I don't think you're ever going to grow and improve your skills, whether it's professional, personal, whatever it is. And I think people are just more willing to accept that maybe you're not 100% of an expert yet.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're trying to get to that level is what's the most important.
I think so too. It's more so a lot of people are walking this same path as us now. Like a lot of people are aspiring to be entrepreneurs or aspiring to create their own business.
Yeah.
So I think people are just really seeing it through their own lens and just being more opening it. Opening and understanding.
And I think also like businesses, like entrepreneurs, startups, everyone just, they're being more open about the process, which was really hard earlier. Like for most people, I'm sure like you might have a great idea, but it's like, how do I go, just like you were saying, how do I go about that? I don't know how to actually implement that into the real world. Whereas now you can actually just like, even Google it and there'll be like 500 entrepreneurs who you admire and actually know their names giving you advice about it. So,
Something like this is super helpful too. Like that's what we want to create these conversations where we talk about like our journeys as women in creative spaces or executive spaces, so people can just like see like we're not like suited and booted. We're just
exactly.
just here, just having this experience. So
it's a work in progress.
It really is. What is the day to day for you? Like, is there a routine or ritual that keeps like your personal life mixed with, school plus, startup? Like, is there something that you do daily that keeps you like sane?
I think two things. I definitely take a lot of time with my skincare routine, morning and night. So I'll spend like a minimum 10 minutes just like by myself. I don't want anyone to talk to me. Just decompressing. Aromatherapy, skincare, like just in the bathroom by myself. I will not take calls. I don't want to talk to anybody. I get really irritated if somebody tries to talk to me while I'm doing that. So I take that time for myself, and I'm working out a lot more. So I try to go at least 5 times a week. So then I'll block out like an hour and a half of my day for that as well.
That is good.
And so you notice that just keeps you like on track, focused.
Definitely.
No, for sure.
I feel like we have to have a routine. It's no way we could produce the type of stuff we produce like without one.
Yeah, I'm always my best when I like have a routine. Like I'm a go with the flow kind of person. But I've noticed that I'm more calm
if there's a little bit of structure.
A little.
Yeah, like I can't do a full day of like on a schedule. Whenever I've tried to do that, it's never worked out for me. If I'm like, oh, by like 10 o'clock, I'm going to start doing this. By 11, I'm going to start doing this. It's never worked for me. So as long as I have like 2 or 3 things that I know I'll do,
up in the air, kind of, but
so I like frame it around like I'll frame it around morning skincare, gym, day, night skincare.
Because you're prioritizing.
You're not overwhelming yourself. Also, like you're not like I have 100 things to do, because that's sometimes me. Like sometimes I go through this phase where I'm like, I'll do the whole like Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, and then by Wednesday I'm like burnt out.
I'll make like a to-do list, but I won't put times to it. So as long as I've crossed everything off by the end of the day, I'm happy with it.
So what helps me now is I do these things, like I do what's called like your top 3. So I'll like wake up in the morning and then I'll pick these 3 things that like no matter before I lay my head down tonight, like I have to get done. And it just makes me kind of feel good about myself and not like beat myself up that like, because usually I'll be like, oh, I have to do 100 things. But I'm like, no. If I just stick to these 3 like important.
It's overwhelming to look at as well.
Those long ass lists.
I feel like, girl, I'm getting into bed.
Because when you think about it, even like the entrepreneurial journey, like when you think about like, okay, the ultimate goal is, if your goal is to exit or you want to be a unicorn or all these things, but when you look at the end goal, it seems like insane. But when you think about like, oh, okay, all you have to do is send 5 emails today.
That's it. That's it. I'll be like, send 5 emails, go to the grocery store, cleaners, see my best friend for dinner. I'm like, girl, how? How am I gonna do it all? And I don't do it. So.
It's okay. Circling back to your startup, just kind of, I think it's so cool because my mom is in Germany right now, so she's there for like a contract with the military, and she just left. Like I just took her to the airport, and we're like running around to get all the products that she can't get in Germany. You know,
Yeah.
like,
wow.
she can't like certain things, like she can only receive mail a certain way, like just even being on the army base, and it's just
Yeah.
like she doesn't have her things.
Mhm.
And so every time she gets a way to come here, we like stock her up so she can go back. And
Yeah.
it's just like, but what if she wasn't able to do that? You know?
Yeah.
So that's so cool, and I'm super excited, like to.
Yeah, I'm very
use it.
excited. It's a lot of work, and like you were saying earlier, if you don't have a list or whatever, it becomes a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Because especially with a startup, you always feel there's more you can do, because there is more you can
Yeah.
do, right? And you can just keep adding on to your list, so kind of narrowing it down and prioritizing is
You gotta
definitely.
give yourself grace.
They call
Yeah.
it the MVP, like the first product that is probably narrowed down to solving one problem, and
Yeah.
then you can just grow that. After you've proven that this works, and you can grow with all the other things.
Mhm.
Because I know a lot of our users, or not even users, but just people along the way in the path as they learn what we're doing with the TmrO app. They're like, how about this? And you think about this, and we want this, and da da da. And it's just like, okay.
So I know we've been doing a lot of talk about like where you are now. I want to ask you, if you were to see yourself in 3 to 5 years, what would that look like? And that can be in regards to business, personal life.
Oh, I want to be like Tom Ford.
Period.
Own a bunch of conglomerate companies, head them, do a great job with that, and just sit back and be
Are you
fashionable.
still living here in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to stay here?
Not long term, but I'm gonna finish up grad school here.
Okay.
I see myself working here, or maybe remotely, but based out of here for maybe a year or two.
Okay.
Um,
And then
but
go where?
probably New York or LA. There's just, in my industry, there's just a lot more opportunity
Yeah.
there. And if my company scales, those are the key markets we're looking at as well. So if we're heading it as like a head office, then I think those would be the locations.
I love that.
What would you tell yourself 5 years ago, your 5-year ago self?
Any advice?
Any advice? Yeah.
Or tell a younger girl who is the age you were 5 years ago, what would you tell her?
One, definitely that my eyebrows aren't hideous because they came back into style. Like 5 years ago, everybody was doing the pencil brows and people were like, oh my God, you have like bushes on your forehead. And
Beautiful.
my parents were like, you are not allowed to do anything to it. And I used to be so upset.
Shout out to your
and
parents.
so embarrassed and so self-conscious. And now I'm like, this is so good.
Yeah, life is good. You're like, life is good.
And I think also just that it's okay to be multifaceted and have a lot of interests, because at least in like India and Sri Lanka where I grew up, like people always picked one lane. Like you either got into commerce or law or medicine or the arts, and that was the only vague one, like the arts, and that focuses on like painting or sculpture. And I kind of had interest in all of them. Like I liked biology, but not science, but not chemistry. And I liked math a bit, but I didn't like accounting. And then I liked literature, but I didn't like grammar.
Yeah.
So like when I used to say all of those things, people used to get really confused. Like, oh, that sounds a little too scattered. You should pick one thing and stay with it. And I ended up just feeling that the most freedom was in the art space. So that's what I pursued. And I think just moving here, people at SCAD, like my mentors and everything, just made it feel like it's okay to have broader interests, and it actually can be very interconnected. And then especially if you're in an entrepreneurial space, you can make those connections and leverage those different interests.
I'm so glad that you said that, and that's becoming like okay, because I feel like me and my path, like I started as a designer, like 17, and then I went into the music industry and I was a songwriter, and then I was signed to a label, and then I started designing again, and then pivoting to where I am right now. And it's like there's so many people that just could not understand what I was doing. They couldn't give me advice, and several people that were like, "You're doing too much," and really like, damn, it felt like a blow. Like,
It's demotivating, right?
it really is, and I kept going, because it's like, what else am I gonna do? I couldn't bear not doing, following my heart or not doing something creative, creating something. And so to see that actually right now it's paying off,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to, pay attention to my intuition a lot more and just like believe her. And then, women like you is like, yeah, like that's what we're doing. We're just out here doing whatever we need to do, whatever we want to do, and we're being successful.
Yeah. No, that's I think the most important thing, like finding something that you like doing while also being able to sustain yourself doing it. America as a market has always been a lot more understanding and innovative in terms of tools, technology, starting companies than the rest of the world. Like I have a lot of family in England and I'd visit there a lot, and the whole entrepreneurship culture hasn't still taken up. There's a lot of like benchmarks and hurdles to get to that point, because like the D2C route hasn't really been, it's not as leveraged, and it's not as like, the tools aren't there as much, the access to them isn't there as much. I think people in America are more willing to talk about their experiences as well, at least in my experience of meeting with mentors and stuff. I think people are willing to share a lot more about what their struggle was, talk about themselves, which in itself can be a very like
a struggle.
It can be a struggle, but it's really helpful when you're starting out to just hear about somebody else's process and learn from that. But also, I mean, I think just the access to the technology and the tools that you can like, even if you don't know something, you can find LinkedIn Learning, lynda.com and learn how to do something. So like that was definitely something that wasn't really accessible in Sri Lanka for me. Like if you wanted to learn about, starting, like a supply chain route or something.
I was like, what?
Like if you wanted to learn about something, and you maybe, I don't know, didn't know that there were certain tools. First of all, a lot of the tools that are available here aren't accessible globally. Like LinkedIn Learning, I don't think is available in Sri Lanka and India. So
I was gonna say.
so unless you know like what those tools are in those countries, or like find out from somebody, your availability of them is less. So most likely you have to go and find someone who does that and then ask them about it. So it just seems like a lot more steps and like a longer process. Whereas I think here, seeing other people and how they've done things and being able to connect with them is much easier.
So does your family support, like, because they're not in the same space? Well, you said they are entrepreneurs.
My dad especially, like, I think we've had a great relationship, and we bond over this a lot. He's actually helping me. He's the CEO of my company that we're launching. So we work together a lot. He was in marketing. I was inspired to get into that because of him. The industries that he's worked in definitely influenced me as well. So like he worked in consumer goods at Nestle, and then he worked in an alcohol company, and both of those industries and became very familiar to me just seeing kind of work he did. And then I was like, oh, I'm interested in those industries as well. So I think like the family background definitely played a huge influence in shaping who I am and what I'm interested in.
That's great, because I feel like when people see this and hear your story, we've got to have you back for like an all-star to just get even more insight into your process. Because I feel like when people in the States, they will say, oh, I can't do this, I don't have the resources, da, 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 da. And then someone like yourself was like, y'all actually got a lot more than I came from.
Yeah, it's just being able to see it, right? I think when you're standing so close to it, you forget what's actually available to you. And you lose the appreciation for it.
And then I think also like pop culture, the things that we glamorize here is not the hard work. It's just like the outcome, the finished product. We don't show as much. I mean, now we have like podcasts and YouTube channels where people are breaking stuff down, but so many young kids are just so like engulfed in the pop culture, fantasy, glamorous side. And they're like, it needs to happen tomorrow, like all these steps, I'm not doing it. And to know that, okay, to kind of start glamorizing the journey. and like you
Yeah.
can't get there without this.
Exactly.
And enjoying the journey.
Enjoying the journey is so important. Like if you're losing your mind doing it, it might not be the right path. You shouldn't be feeling that way about it. But I think people are talking about it more, like on podcasts and Instagram and stuff. People are talking about it more, which is really important. But like back when I was doing my undergrad, people weren't talking about it enough.
Yeah.
So a lot of like even starting a company that I'm doing now, I don't think I would have had the guts to do it back then, because I was just like, I don't even know how to start with that. I don't know who to talk to about that. I don't know how.
So what do you feel like gave you the official, like, was it a moment where you just felt so overly confident?
The pandemic.
Yeah, like it was that. So when I had that whole epiphany about what I want the company to be, I went and told my dad about it, and I was like, but I don't know how we would do this. Like I think this is a great idea, but I don't know how to do it. And he's been the backbone, like the pillar for me. Like he was just like, no, I'll make it happen. And like he literally got a team together, figured out the supply chain, got the products made. And
That's
it was
a
like,
whole conversation in itself.
and then it was like, you focus on which part you like. And I was like, I like the marketing and the advertising and the creative direction of it. And he's like, okay, then you focus on that and I'll help you with everything else.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's definitely, I'm so blessed and that we can work together really well, which, I mean, I was a little bit worried about that as well. I was just like, working together with my dad, like as colleagues is like, it can be pretty, it can be a harrowing thought, but it's worked out. It's, apart from the time difference, I think everything else is.
So is he ahead?
He's about 10 and a half hours ahead. Okay. So like I had a meeting last night with him, and it started at like I think 11:30 p.m.
Your time
here, and I got off the phone at like 1:30.
Yeah.
So apart from the time difference, I mean everything else has been moving smoothly.
I love that. Well, we're excited for the launch.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna have to do like a takeover on this, like explaining each product, everything.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Absolutely.
That'll be fun.
We're all about wellness, honey. How many different roles do you play in your, I guess in your company? This is a startup, because I know it's, like you said, you started with Sice, and it was just two of you guys, and now you have your own startup. Like, how many roles do you play?
So it's getting a little more defined now as time has gone by, because we've been working on it for about almost 2 years now. Okay. So it's getting a little bit more defined, but I was doing like I'm interested in marketing. So what I wanted to do was just creative direction. I wanted to do the packaging and the social media. But in the beginning, I'm like working on like the pitch decks and making like, like literally the decks and the presentations that you'd show to board members. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I the graphic designer as well?
Yeah,
so I was doing graphic design work. I was doing documentation. I was doing copywriting. Now that I'm doing this marketing side of things and getting the operations in hand, my team is like, okay, so you can help us with like the financial side, so you can put in all of your marketing numbers onto this Excel sheet and like forecast it for the next 3 years. I was like, I've never had to do that, but it's a lot, but I think in hindsight, things have just really worked out timing wise. Like if I hadn't gone back and done my master's at SCAD and gotten that financial wherewithal, this would have, like an Excel sheet would have been so overwhelming for me. But now I know how to do that, and like it's a tedious task for me. I wouldn't say that financials and accounting is fun for me at all, but I know how to do it. Okay. So it's not intimidating. It's just boring. Yeah.
I think that's a whole like conversation in itself of like, I feel like we don't talk about like that fear, like as entrepreneurs that we have of like, because I'm not into this field, or like you tapped onto it when we had the tech woman on, but like we just feel like, oh, it's not doable, or it's like so far reach. And then after like 6 months in the business or a year, you look back and you literally have accomplished.
I did it.
You did it.
Yeah, you did it. I did it.
I feel like we just need more people just to say like, one, giving you like awareness that that's going to happen countless times in being an entrepreneur or creating something. And then two, like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think it's just about having faith in yourself that I can figure it out. Like I might not get it right now, but I know I'm clever enough to figure this out.
I just know so many people like get so stuck in that point and then like give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think fear is like one of the most overwhelming emotions you can have, and it can be different for different people. Like for me, it'll sometimes like there'll be things where like I genuinely have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
Like supply chain, I have zero idea of how to do that. But now I need to be involved in that. It's important, and it's even more of a connection because it's for me. Like, you know, I need to be a part of this. I need to figure out how to do this. And you know, you can take like 2 days off and just be like,
I was just about to say,
and do nothing, and just like be thinking about it.
It's just being like aware of how you also handle those situations. Because for me, I shut completely down. Like when I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do this, and then I like go through this process of like beating myself up, like you should know how to do this. Like who are you to say you're a CEO but you don't know how to do this? And so I'll like give myself like 24 hours of just like in my
Taking
like the
a step
process
back.
of like in my head, and then I'm just like, but the next action is work. You got to figure now. It's like I got to figure out how to do it.
The next thing
You got to
is
get up.
actually
You have to get up.
doing that Google search or
Yeah.
writing that email to ask
Or talking to the
someone.
right people.
Because you can't get
whatever it is,
stuck.
yeah.
You can't get stuck.
You can't get stuck.
You can't let yourself.
Especially when it's for yourself, like it's your company.
Exactly.
It's like how much more time are you gonna waste?
That's
So-
what goes into the next question of like the importance of a team, and like you're building a team, I'm building a team, you're building a team, and like have you like, I feel like at this point everyone knows that a team is important.
Yeah,
Like Beyonce has a team.
definitely. Yeah, you can't do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
You can't.
Like you'd
And-
experience burnout every day. I feel like if
Are you one of those
tried to
people
do
that naturally feel like, oh, I can do everything by myself? Because I'm one of those.
I am like that, and then when it comes to like my work, like if it's marketing wise, I really don't like people getting involved in it, and that's been a learning lesson for me as well. Like because
Yeah.
I've seen other aspects of the business just become so much better when people are involved in it. So I'm slowly
Yeah.
just even letting go of that, and if you're a part of the team and you have input on the work that I'm
Yeah.
doing, I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just being open to
being open.
to the
I
conversation.
definitely learned years ago, like I'm team delegate. Like I will delegate like everything that I can. Certain things like dealing with the actual dev team, it's like I gotta be there. I gotta be right there.
Yeah.
I have to make sure, because at the end of the day, I'm like, this is my baby. Like
Yeah.
I wrote out the flow of this app before anyone ever saw it. So it's just like I know what it's supposed to be, even though I don't know how to code. I know how it's supposed to function, the different layers and all that stuff. So that's probably the one area that I'm like, you know, I can't let anyone fully take over, but
Yeah.
everything else, I'm like, oh, you're good at that. You're great at that.
Yeah.
Please do your thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
please do all of
Rock
it.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can be involved in it, but if somebody is clearly like that is
Yeah.
what they do
They specialize in
and they're
that.
really good at it, just trust them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna try to do that if I'm at a 20% and they're at 100%.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
So I can say,
I did it.
just so I can say that I did it.
Yeah.
And then building trust with people is important too, because you can't just let anyone just take over. But just like feeling the energy, I feel like it's a real energy thing when you can
Yeah.
feel like someone, okay, I like their energy, their intent seems like solid, and then you can kind of let them slide in.
Yeah, like I think that's why the interview process is like so important. You need to
Yeah.
figure out if this person is going to bring value to what you're doing, but also is this somebody that I want to work with? And in a startup thing, I'm going to be talking to this person like, I don't know, 20, 30 hours of a week. Do I want to talk to this person for 30 hours of the week?
Exactly.
Is that a
Yeah.
comfortable conversation?
People don't talk about that enough. People are always like, suck it up, thick skin, this is business, it's not personal. But how is it not personal?
You spend so much time with the person, you know?
Like, I want nice people. I want
Yeah.
people who are like-minded. I don't want rude, nasty.
And also who understand when you are on a 20. Like when you,
Yeah.
like as a CEO, like when you don't have it in you to show up today. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like as a business owner, people just expect you to be like your best self
Every day.
every day, all day. And it's like, bro, I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm human.
And let's be human in this process. Like
And
you
let's
were
be
saying,
human together.
Yeah.
Enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
Because I always told myself, I have seen, you know how you see people, they look like they're at like the pinnacle of success, and then something happens and they actually either take their life or they are ill, completely ill. And it's like, you did all of that to not have quality of life. And for me, I'm like, each day, like, that's just important to me.
Trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not something that people really in the business world are okay with, like, championing. They're just like,
it's the grind,
Yeah.
and you have to
grind.
stick
And it
with
is the
it.
grind,
Yeah.
But if I'm creating a company, it's gonna be my way.
Yeah, and that, I think doing your own thing gives you that freedom.
Yeah.
Or at least, or even just working with a smaller company that's going to scale, like about to scale, getting in at that point where you can, have enough command in the situation. I think that's important.
I agree.
I love it here.
Me too.